It was an accident. My sisters brought me onto it. Towards the end of last summer, 2022, I get a call from my older sister, and we talk about one of our younger sisters who has ADHD. Now, those two sisters were living within a couple hours of each other for the first time in a few years, and so they were kind of bonding a little bit, and my older sister was learning more about her struggles. They had kind of connected a little more and got to talk, why she was doing the things that she did and how ADHD affects her life and relationships. So little things like she may not text us back, and she explains that it's because if she doesn't have an immediate response, then she will forget about the text because she's read it already and it will just get lost. Things like that, which are helpful for us to understand her perspective and what's going on. So I was really intrigued by that. It made me aware that I knew very little about ADHD, and I had forgotten that she had been diagnosed. I kind of assumed it was just something that affected her when she was in school. I was sort of craving a closer connection with her, and so I decided to kind of dive into this as an avenue to learn more about her and how her mind works and how I could connect with her. So I started educating myself on ADHD, and I happened to download TikTok around this time for other reasons, and I discovered ADHD TikTok. And with the algorithm, more ADHD related content was suggested to me, and I was shocked to find that I was relating to a lot of this stuff. I was very skeptical and analytical about this, and I feel like I'm so different from this sister that I didn't see myself relating to her necessarily. I would have never in a million years suspected I had ADHD, mainly for my ignorance and also some misconceptions that are very common. The first being, you have to do poorly in school. As far back as I remember, like middle school and high school, I had straight A's. Hyperactive, loud, very verbal person. That was not me. I've always been very socially awkward and anxious, and I was always kind of known for being the quiet one. And I also expected to have some impulsivity, spending money, but I characterized myself as more of a saver, and so I didn't identify with that really either. And then I've kind of had this reputation of being prepared. I used to carry around this massive purse with scissors and tissues and like anything that you could need or want, I had in my purse to be prepared. I'm sure that had a lot to do with anxiety. And looking back, I think I was sort of forced into being prepared because of some traumatic experiences, and I felt like I was going to forget something or need something in the future, and I was uncomfortable with that, and so I needed to have backups, and I needed to have stuff in place to protect me when I would forget stuff that I needed. When I forgot things, like really important things as a kid, it really was a traumatic experience for me. I think I internalized it as something wrong with me when I made mistakes like that. I think I was about 8 years old. We went on a family vacation and I locked the car keys in our minivan. It was kind of this whole drama thing, and my memory of it is probably skewed, but I felt like I had really screwed up because I wasn't thinking straight. I felt like I had done something really wrong and caused grief and maybe terror even for my mother. I felt like I couldn't trust myself and my mind. I was like, how did I do that? That was so stupid. Like, other people and I should have expected more from me. I have this theory that childhood traumas and looking at those can kind of clue you into some of the cognitive dysfunctions that you might have. When it comes to grades in school, although I did do well, I did start deteriorating my third year of college. I had moved in with my dad and I was losing my motivation to show up to class and do things, and a lot of that is depression related, but I was sleeping until noon and procrastinating my work, and I found myself scrambling at the end of the semester to pull something together in order to pass my classes, and like doing extra credit and whatever, and getting through the finals week. And that terrified me. It was so unlike me to be so irresponsible and put things off that much. That really scared me. To kind of escape and get out of that, I decided to move again and move in with my mom instead, and I took a sabbatical from school, and I ended up never going back. So I was pretty lost, I guess. I guess that was the first time I really saw my mental state affecting my school. But yeah, tons of shame and embarrassment around that, and I wanted to escape kind of, and I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I had seen a therapist around that time who was not a good fit for me, did not understand what was going on and was not helpful. And I saw one when I was living in an apartment with other girls on campus that, again, didn't really help. So I was getting some help. I did try a antidepressant around that time and was not seeing a result and kind of just didn't go anywhere. Okay, but I'm getting off topic here, sorry. So how did it feel to kind of recognize that I might have this mental disorder, ADHD? During that time, as I'm researching about it for my sister, and I'm recognizing this might be something that I have as well, there was some sadness and some denial a little bit, but also some like validation. It was sort of gratifying to see how this thing could kind of fill in the gaps and piece together my life, my depression, my eating disorder, my social anxiety, and trying to like piece together who I was and what were all these problems that were holding me back. And the ADHD sort of kind of umbrellaed all of that. Like, this is the mental disorder that I have, and then these are all the coexisting things that developed because I had this mental disorder, if that makes sense. And it was exciting to me to see, okay, here's a potential avenue for me to get help. Now I can look for motivation and mindset for ADHD and how to organize for an ADHD brain, and, you know, dove into podcasts and YouTube videos. I felt like, okay, maybe this is an avenue of self-help that will actually help me, since it's catered to my specific brain setup. So there was a little like denial, I guess, kind of imposter syndrome, where I felt like, okay, I'm not special enough. This can't be me. Other people, I'm sure, have it way worse than me, and I might just have a touch of this, or, you know, kind of downplaying my symptoms. And I created multiple Google Docs where I was taking notes on all of these things, thought processes and behaviors and different things that I thought applied to me that were related to ADHD. I don't know if I was convincing myself or felt like I needed to convince family and other people. I haven't talked to everybody, all my family, about it, because I feel like I'm going to be told like, oh yeah, everybody has some of that, you know, and I didn't want that response. So I guess I was a little afraid of what other people would say. But it was very interesting to kind of look back through, you know, different problems that have come up from childhood into adulthood and sort of recognizing some patterns and things. And then there's sort of this validation, I guess. I've always felt weird and different, and like I didn't have the capacity to be like all the other kids necessarily and be just like them. I was really focused on the academics. That was important to my father, and so it became important to me, and that was really my focus, like doing really well in school. And I think that's sort of where I got some of my pride from, almost, because it was the one area of my life that I felt like I was excelling and that I had down, if that makes sense. And to paint a picture of my like social life, middle school was pretty lonely time, and then by like mid high school I had like no friends really left. No longer had anybody to hang out with at lunch, and would go hide in the bathroom or the library, and I just kind of kept my head down and was just like, okay, focus on school, get through that. The social part doesn't really matter. Like, I'll get that at some point in my life, but not now. And I was just really tired of pushing myself into excruciatingly uncomfortable situations to try to be friends and, you know, try to sit with people and try to talk to them and feel like I wasn't really getting anywhere and not really creating a relationship. I eventually put words to like the social anxiety, and so I assumed I just had a social anxiety disorder. And so I went through many moments of fatigue where I was like, I can't. And then in college I was like, okay, now this is where it matters, because I need to find a husband. And like, that's the, you know, I'm at school, I'm following the path that was laid out for me. I pushed really, really hard to like go to all the social events. This was mainly all related to my church on campus. Be like, okay, I'm going to every event and push myself to talk to them and be present and social. It was so hard, so painful. And I think past this first semester, I got some feedback that made me feel like all of my work and effort was not getting me anywhere, and I was still at the same place. I was perceived as very shy, a crush on a guy that clearly was not into me, and like kind of slipped further into depression. Beyond that moment, I think I was just really lost for a long time. After a couple of months of researching ADHD, I think it was about October of last year, is when I decided I would just bring it up to my primary care physician. I was very nervous about it. I don't know, like I felt like I shouldn't even be bringing it up. I was anxious about what would be said. Although this doctor I was with, I felt was validating to me, and like when I would bring up symptoms to her that I was struggling with, that she would take what I said at face value. But I was still very nervous and not expecting anything of it, you know? But she was immediately like, yep, that's a thing. Sounds like you have it and your sister has it, so what meds do you want to try? And I was just like astounded, like, okay, you believe me and you're like ready to move forward with like treatment already, which is not the case for everybody, but that's what happened. And so I was like, I hadn't really researched treatment and medicine, so I just told her whatever she suggested. And so we did try a couple of different things and have experimented with dosages. I think we're still not quite there. Got a little more work to go on tweaking some things and finding the perfect cocktail of things that's gonna work best with my brain and my body. It's been a little hard, but good. So I have not received a formal diagnosis. My understanding is there are a lot of hoops to jump through with that, and you know, getting an initial intake appointment. You know, I've done a little bit of that in the past for something else, you know, where they ask you all these questions and they're like, okay, now I need to bring this to the doctor, and then we'll see if she thinks you're in the ballpark and eligible for needing help and stuff. Long waiting list to get in to see those initial appointments and then finally see the actual doctor and get a diagnosis. And so that may be something I pursue in the future, because I still feel like not completely secure and validated in it, even though I really do think I have it. And so your primary care physician, they may refer you out to somebody like a specialist for mental health, but they often will prescribe ADHD meds too. And so that's the avenue that I'm taking. I feel like I'm still kind of just at the beginning of this journey, like understanding ADHD and treatment, and I have a long journey ahead of me of kind of piecing all these things together and figuring out how to be more efficient in my life. I know a lot of people are kind of angry or sad when they get to this point as an adult. You know, I'm turning 30 this week, and a lot of people get diagnosed later in life. I mean, you can't change the past, but it's often hard not to look back and be like, wow, if there was intervention when I was in elementary school, or I had gotten help sooner, that the trajectory of my life could have been very different. Probably wouldn't have dropped out of college, and you know, all the choices that I made based on like internal struggles and sadness and pain. But I feel like almost prided myself in being like the model daughter and child, because I didn't ever create any problems. I did good in school, and I was like the priority, and I went to church and was a good girl in terms of like religion. I didn't really enjoy life to the capacity that I probably could have. Didn't do any like extracurriculars. I feel like it makes sense from an outside perspective why there wouldn't have been any intervention, because I was fine. Like I was hitting all those milestones and like doing it in school and not getting into trouble. You know, who knows what could have happened. Please subscribe so we have more opportunities to see each other. I've got a lot more coming. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.